The email arrived at 2:13 a.m. and used my full legal name, middle initial and all, the way hospitals and courts talk to you when something has already gone wrong. Notice of closure, St. Dorothea Cemetery, it read. We are suspending all public access effective immediately, the body said. Multiple incidents, multiple fatalities, cause under review. Then a sentence that did not belong in government paperwork. Please do not disturb the dead. I host a podcast that lives between true crime and urban legend. I've reported on scams, missing people, cult leaders who weren't as supernatural as their followers wanted. I do not cover ghosts. I didn't delete the email. I printed it, old habit, like paper can anchor a thing to reality, and drove south before sunrise. St. Dorothea sat in a quiet New Orleans neighborhood, behind a chain-link fence swallowed by vines. It wasn't the postcard cemetery with tour buses. It was older, smaller, and somehow heavier, as if the air had been trained to hold its voice. A crooked sign on the gate said closed, do not enter. Someone had added in marker, for your own good. Two teenagers arrived while I watched from across the street. They filmed themselves laughing at the sign, the way kids do when they want to prove fear has no jurisdiction over them. One reached through the fence toward the padlock. He never touched it. The lock clicked open by itself. The boys froze. The street noise thinged. Not silence exactly, more like the world stepped back a few feet. The gate swung inward on a hinge that sounded relieved. Nope, one kid said, and they walked away quickly, trying to look casual while their bodies screamed. The gate stayed open. I crossed the street. Inside, the city of the dead rose in limestone rows, above-ground vaults stocked like drawers, each sealed door labeled in careful script. Some doors carried dates from the 1800s, years when sickness took people fast and families learned to bury above water. Ceramic flowers, coins wedged into cracks, names you could almost hear if you let your mind do that human thing where it assigns voice to stone. Halfway down the main aisle, I found a vault door hanging slightly ajar. Above-ground tombs aren't supposed to do that. They aren't supposed to breathe. A municipal worker in a reflective vest stepped out from behind the rows, pushing a cart of plaster bags. He saw me and stopped. You can't be in here, he said. I got a notice, I lied, holding up my phone like it contained authority. His expression didn't change. Everybody got a notice. Everybody thinks it's for somebody else. What happened? I asked. He pointed at the ajar door without getting closer. They opened one, he said. Who? Tour people, internet people. They find a sealed door and decided to puzzle. His voice sharpened. This one was supposed to stay closed another few decades. You don't open those until the bones have gone quiet. Quiet, I repeated, because my brain needed a word to grab. He looked at me like I was the problem, then like he was afraid of being overheard. You're standing in a place made to keep the dead from coming up, he said. When you open it early, you don't let them out. You let them listen. My mouth went dry. The gap in the door was no wider than my finger, but the darkness behind it looked thick, like ink. I felt something then. Not a voice, not a presence, something simpler and worse, the sensation of being observed by something that didn't need eyes. I backed away. I didn't run. I walked fast, the way the teenagers had. Outside the gate, I looked down at my printed email in my hand. The paper had gone damp in the humidity. The sentence, "Please do not disturb the dead," was blurred, as if the ink didn't want to hold that instruction for long. That night in my hotel, I searched for mundane answers. Vandalism reports, vault robberies, TikTok dares. Nothing about an official closure note begging people not to disturb the dead. At 11:59 p.m., my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Keep driving north. Attached, a video file. The file name was a date, 050808, and one word, Jess. I watched with the volume low because hotels at night make you feel like you're trespassing even when you've paid. The footage showed a flashlight beam bouncing through pine trees toward a brick ruin. Two young voices joked into the camera, brave because bravery plays well on recording. The building's facade carried white paint, not a place for kids. On the ground in front of the door, chalk marked a circle with an 8-pointed star inside. I sat up straighter. I hadn't told anyone about the symbol on the email photo. I hadn't posted. I hadn't searched. The couple went inside. The hallway swallowed the light. Footsteps echoed with that institutional sound you hear in old schools, prisons, places built to contain. The guy said the name of the place like it was a punchline: Briarwood State Hospital. The girl, Jess, I assumed, mocked him for being scared. He joked back, then paused. "Do you hear that?" she asked. "What, your own breathing?" "No," she said, "it's singing." The camera swung. The flashlight caught a room lined with rusted cots. Something moved at the edge of the beam, too quick to be human, too deliberate to be a rat. Jess stepped forward. Then she vanished. Not ran out of frame, not ducked behind a wall. 1 second she was there, the next the air held only dust. The guy stumbled into the room, shouting her name. The camera whirled. Static crackled across the audio like a radio being tuned by an impatient hand. The flashlight stopped on the far wall. Fresh paint, wet enough to glisten, spelled a single word: Evan. My name. I told myself it was a different Evan. The country has plenty, but the guy in the video said, very softly, as if testing it, "Evan." And somewhere deeper in the building, Jess's voice answered, calm, close, wrong. "Come here." The screen went dark. The file ended. My throat tightened in that animal way it does when your brain tries to deny what your body has already accepted. A new message arrived immediately after. Don't make fun of them. I didn't remember laughing. I didn't remember joking. But I did remember how easy it felt in the cemetery to treat a sealed door like a curiosity instead of a boundary. I drove north. Briarwood wasn't on any map I could find, but the GPS guided me onto a rural Pennsylvania road bordered by pines. The moment I turned onto it, the radio cut out. No static, just silence, and my ears popped like I'd changed altitude. 2 miles later, the trees opened and the building appeared, a sprawling state hospital campus of brick and broken windows. A chain across the driveway held a government sign: "No trespassing, hazard." Someone had scratched a second line into the metal, deep enough to last. "They're still inside." I parked on the shoulder. I didn't cross the chain. Partly because I'd learned my lesson, mostly because the air here felt pressurized, like the atmosphere held its breath. I recorded a quick field note, trying to sound normal. "Briarwood State Hospital," I said. "There's a dead air pocket, like sound doesn't want to travel." A branch snapped behind me. I spun. Nothing. When I looked back, for a second I thought I saw a face in a second-floor window, a pale oval against darkness. Then the light shifted, and it was only a torn curtain. Before I could talk myself into bravery, my recorder hissed and added a second line to my field note in a voice that wasn't mine. "Not yet." I left without listening to it again until I was on the highway, daylight around me like a blessing. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. 2 days later, a letter appeared in my mailbox back home. No return address. The envelope was stained as if it had ridden in someone's pocket through rain. The handwriting was older, careful, the kind that still believes in penmanship. "If you're reading this, it means you already came and you didn't fix it. We are dying. Please come to Briar County. Don't bring cameras, just come." Signed, Martha Larkin. Behind the letter was a Polaroid photo of a small town sign: "Welcome to Briar County." Across the sign, in black marker, someone had drawn the same 8-pointed star. The postmark was dated 4 days in the future. That's the moment my skepticism stopped being useful. Skepticism works when time behaves. I packed a bag and drove. Briar County wasn't a real county, not on paper. The GPS lost itself twice, then dumped me on a gravel road that felt older than asphalt. Cell service died. Pine trees leaned close. The sky lowered. The town itself was small enough to miss, A diner, a single pump gas station, a church, a post office, and in the center, like the heart had hardened into stone, a cemetery. Not on the edge of town, in the middle. I parked by the post office. An older woman sat on the steps smoking, eyes tracking me with the tired focus of someone who has counted too many funerals. "You're early," she said. "Are you Martha Larkin?" I asked. She nodded, crushed the cigarette, and stood. "We thought you'd come after the next one," she said. "The next what?" She looked at the cemetery as if it were a clock. "Death," she said, "like weather, like Tuesday." Inside the diner, people ate in silence. The TV played a game show no one watched. Everyone looked underfed by sleep. Martha slid into a booth and motioned for me to sit. She didn't order coffee. A mug appeared anyway, set down by a waitress who avoided my eyes. "It started when they paved the road," Martha said. "That's specific." "They straightened the curve," she said. "The road used to bend around the cemetery like it knew better. Engineers came in with grants and cones and decided a curve was inefficient. They cut close. The grader hit the oldest stones. One cracked." She took a breath that rattled. 2 weeks later, Caleb Price wrecked his truck. He swore he saw a woman standing in the road, white dress, hair over her face. He swerved to miss her and hit a tree. He lived long enough to say she was smiling. "And after that?" I asked. "Accidents, then sickness, then suicides." Her eyes got hard. "You know what it's like when a town is small. You don't need headlines. You feel every empty chair. 203 years. We're not a big place." I tried to be practical. Did the state investigate? Environmental hazards? Bad water? Radon? Martha's laugh came out without humor. "We tested the water," she said. "We tested the soil. We tested the school. We got experts who gave us words like idiopathic and psychosomatic, the kind of words that mean there is no lever for this." "Why me?" I asked. Martha's eyes flicked to the window. "Because you're already involved," she said. She reached into her purse and set a small chipped piece of plaster on the table, a faint curve like part of a circle. "I found it by the cemetery gate the morning after Caleb died. We don't have chalk here." My stomach sank. "I saw this," I whispered. Martha nodded once. "That's why you came," she said, "even if you think you chose it." An old man rose from a corner booth and walked over, uninvited. White beard, lined face, eyes bright in a way that made him look both ancient and awake. "Even," he said. I flinched. "How do you—" "You are loud," he said, cutting me off. His accent was thick, hard to place. Martha introduced him as Aram. She didn't add a last name. Aram laid a folded sheet of paper on the table. It was a printout of my podcast logo. Across it, someone had drawn the 8-pointed star. In the center, a dot. "That dot is you," Aram said. I forced myself to breathe. "Is this some kind of cult?" I asked. Aram's gaze didn't blink. "People who want power use whatever tool works," he said. "Here, the tool is the dead." He took a slow sip of water, as if timing mattered. "There are places where the ground is wrong. Fault lines, underground water, iron, infrasound that makes your body anxious without telling your brain why. Some American places you already know. Desert triangles, mountain gaps, old battlefields where compasses twitch. The science calls it environmental stress. Folk calls it thin." "And here?" I asked. "Here is thin, and the cemetery is in the center, so the thinness has a spine." Martha's hands trembled. "It wasn't always like this," she said. Aram nodded. "It became louder," he said. "What rules?" I asked. "Quiet, respect, and do not mock what you do not understand. Don't make fun of them. Don't laugh." Martha swallowed hard. "There was a woman," she said, "years ago. Miss Mel. Everyone knew she could ruin you. People would get sick after she visited. Dogs died after she walked by. We all pretended it was coincidence because pretending is safer." "She died," Aram said. 10 years ago," Martha whispered.
And after 3 years, Aram said, this began. 3 years, I repeated. The number snagged in my mind. A delay. An inheritance. Her daughter, Martha said, Lena, lives out by the creek. And Lena has a circle, Aram said. 13 friends. They meet at night. I heard myself almost laugh because 13 is such a cliche, and I stopped it in my throat like a swallowed coin. Aram stood. Come, he said. You should feel it for yourself. We walked to the cemetery in the town's center. At the gate, the air changed. The pressure returned. My ears popped. Footsteps sounded dampened, like the ground wanted to keep sound from traveling. Aram stopped at Miss Mel's stone and pressed his palm to the earth. The wind died. The flagpole stopped clinking. For a moment, the entire town seemed to pause. My recorder in my pocket clicked on by itself. A hiss filled the fabric. Under it, very faint, children laughing. Then a second layer, singing, distant and steady, like a hymn that had forgotten words. Aram's eyes sharpened. We leave, he said. We left fast. Outside the gate, my phone buzzed with a new message. You have been too loud. That night, the motel felt like a cardboard box dropped in a forest. At 3:11 a.m., there were 3 sharp knocks on my door, evenly spaced. I stared at the peephole, too afraid to move. The knocks came again. A shadow slid across the peephole lens, close enough that I could see a pale blur. A woman's voice, low and steady, spoke through the thin wood. Evan, come here. The same words from the hospital video. I forced my voice to work. Who is this? Silence, then, don't laugh. Footsteps retreated. When I finally opened the door, no one stood there, but on the doormat lay 3 white eggs, unbroken, cold as stones. I brought them inside and set them on the desk. Under the motel lamp, the shells looked too perfect, supermarket white, like they didn't belong in a place that smelled of mildew and cheap cleaner. My recorder, still in my pocket, clicked on again. I played the new file back. There was no door knock on it, no footsteps, only my own breathing, and then a woman's voice, so close it sounded like lips at the microphone. You laugh in your head. I shut it off and sat in the dark until morning. In the morning, Aram looked at the eggs and didn't touch them. They are asking you to pay attention, he said. Martha's eyes were red. What do they want? Aram's gaze drifted toward the woods beyond town. There is an old place, he said. Crow Island, out by the creek, in Alter. If Lena is feeding something, that's where she feeds it. I tried to sound sane. Why eggs? Aram's mouth tightened. Because eggs are a promise, he said. They say life can begin again. Some doors accept promises. We went. The road ended in mud. We walked through trees that stood close like witnesses. Once we saw fresh footprints beside the trail, bare feet, even though the air cut cold. Martha stopped, pointed, then kept walking without speaking. The creek moved dark over stone. In the center, a strip of land arose, Crow Island. We crossed on a fallen log. The air above the water felt thinner. My ears popped again. On the island, we found a flat rock slab encircled by smaller stones. Carved into the slab were loops and lines, and unmistakably the 8-pointed star. In the center, a shallow bowl worn by time. Before Aram could kneel, a sound drifted from the far end of the island. Singing. Not the distant recorded kind, real voices. We froze. Through the trees I saw them, figures in dark coats, heads bowed, moving in a slow circle. 13 of them. A lantern swung, casting their faces in brief flashes, young, old, ordinary, like they'd come from church and decided to keep walking. In the center of their circle stood a woman with hair hanging loose over her face, white dress. Lena. She lifted her head as if she'd smelled us. Even from that distance, I felt her attention lock on. A moment later, the singing stopped. No rustle of coats, no whispered alarm. They simply stilled. Then Lena spoke, and her voice carried across the island like it had been given a microphone. "You're late," she said. Martha's breath hitched. "Lena," she whispered, like a plea. Lena's head tilted. "You brought a listener," she said, and I knew she meant me. "We don't like listeners who laugh." Aram stood forward, his hands open, palms out. "We are here to quiet it," he said. Lena laughed once, one clean sound, almost cheerful. "Quiet it," she said. "It's finally being heard." The 13 behind her began to hum, a low vibration that made my teeth ache. Aram didn't raise his voice. "You are using the dead," he said. Lena's smile disappeared. "You are using what the living stole," she said. "They cut the curve, they cracked the stone, they used Miss Mel like a joke until she died alone. So now the town learns." Marthas took a step forward. "People are dying," she said. Lena's gaze slid to her, and for the first time I saw something beneath the hair. Eyes bright, wet, furious. "They were always dying," she said. "They just weren't paying attention." Aram turned slightly, not taking his eyes off Lena. "Evan," he murmured, "do not speak, do not argue, do not feed." The hum deepened. My vision shimmered at the edges like heat off pavement. I understood suddenly what Aram meant by loudspeaker. The island was amplifying emotion until it became force. Aram knelt anyway. He took the eggs from the bag, one by one, and held them over the bowl. Life for life, promise for promise. He set the first egg in the bowl. The shell darkened where it touched stone, as if ink bled into it. The second darkened more slowly. The third stayed white. Aram exhaled, a sound like relief. He lit a small beeswax candle and let wax drip into the bowl until it sealed the eggs in place, a pale cap over dark veins. As the wax hardened, the crows erupted. Wings hammered the air, leaves shook. The 13 voices broke into sudden laughter, high, sharp, not joyful, like glass in a blender. And right beside my ear, inside my skull, a voice whispered, "You can't unhear us." My vision blurred. The island tilted. For a second, I saw the hospital corridor again, doors lined up, each tagged with my name. Martha grabbed my arm. "Evan," she said, "look at me." Behind her, across the creek on the far bank, the woman in white stood among the trees again, hair over face, finger pointing at me like a selection. Aram went still. "That's not Lena," he whispered. Lena's singing cut off mid-note. Her head snapped toward the far bank. For the first time, she looked afraid. The ground under my feet gave, not cracked, not crumbled, opened like a mouth. I fell into the creek. Cold water swallowed sound. In the blur beneath the surface, I saw pale shapes that might have been roots or bones or hands. My mind couldn't decide. A grip caught my wrist and hauled me up. Aram dragged me onto the bank, coughing creek water, shaking. My fingers clawed at stones like they were promises. When I looked back, the far bank was empty. The woman in white was gone. Lena and her circle were gone. The crows were gone. Only the wax-sealed bowl remained on the altar, gleaming like a fresh scar. Aram crouched close. "Listen," he said. "This is not the dead." "What is it?" I rasped. Aram's eyes held mine. "Attention," he said. "Given the wrong way, in the wrong place, it becomes a door." Back in town, Martha said quietly, "It's been quieter since you came." "That's supposed to comfort me?" I asked. "It's supposed to warn you," she said. I left Briar County before dark. Aram wouldn't come with me. "My part is here," he said. "Yours is to stop making it loud." I thought leaving would feel like relief. It felt like walking away from a fire you can still smell in your hair. At the last intersection out of town, the road passed the cemetery again.
A county truck sat by the gate with two men in hard hats loading broken stone into the bed. One of them held Miss Mel's cracked marker like it was just masonry. The moment my car rolled past, both men stopped and looked up at the exact same time. Not at the truck, not at the road, at me. Their faces went slack, eyes unfocused, like someone had turned their attention into a dial and spun it. Then, in perfect unison, they lifted their hands and pointed straight at my windshield. My stomach knotted. I kept driving, refusing to look back. A mile later, the radio flickered on by itself. Not music, not talk. A low hum, the same note the 13 on the island had made, rising and falling like a breath. It filled the car, pressed against my ribs, made my teeth ache. Over the hum, a girl's voice whispered close to the speaker, "Come here." Jess. My hands tightened on the wheel until my knuckles hurt. "No," I said out loud, because saying it felt like drawing a line. The hum faltered as if surprised. Then a second voice joined it, a woman's voice, calm and amused. "You laugh in your head," it said. I didn't laugh, I didn't choke, I didn't even curse. I drove in silence, repeating one sentence to myself like a prayer and a warning. Don't make it loud. When I finally reached the highway and cell service returned, my phone was full of missed calls from numbers that didn't exist. Too many digits, not enough digits, strings of zeros. Each voicemail was only static, and underneath faint singing. Over the highway, my phone returned to life. A draft email sat unsent, addressed to Caldwell, someone I didn't yet know. Subject, about the room above the atrium. Below it, a date, 2 weeks in the future. 2 weeks later, I stood in Washington, D.C., staring at a bland federal building that smelled like marble and surveillance. I'd met Caldwell in a quiet office where he slid declassified memos across a desk with hands that still shook. He told me he'd received my email before I sent it. He wasn't surprised. Time gets thin in the wrong places, he said, as if he'd said it 100 times. A non-local communication experiment in the 1980s, transmitters and receivers, trance and imagery, a room on the 3rd floor directly above an atrium walkway. A storm, a structural failure, people dead. Officially, corrosion and neglect. Unofficially, Caldwell said, they made it too loud. What came through? I asked. Caldwell looked at me like he wanted to lie and couldn't. Names, he said. Any names. Everyone. Like the building learned how to listen. In the atrium, winter light poured through glass. People walked with coffee cups and clipboards, living normal lives above a history they didn't know. On the far wall, almost invisible unless the light hit right, I saw the carving, the 8-pointed star. A security guard approached, asking if I needed help. When his gaze caught the carving, his face twitched with confusion, then fear. His mouth moved. A voice that wasn't his said, softly, "Don't laugh." The guard backed away as if he'd been slapped. I took the stairs to the 3rd floor and found the door. No sign, just wood, scratched with the star. Behind it, faint singing, the same steady hum I'd heard on Crow Island, patient as a tide. My hand hovered over the knob. What's the rule? Quiet, respect. Don't feed it. I stepped back. In that moment, my first real refusal since this began, the air snapped like a rubber band breaking. The knob turned by itself. The door opened a crack. Darkness breathed out. A voice from inside said, not angry, not kind, good. The door clicked shut. The hallway returned to normal. My hands shook.
My phone buzzed with a new email, the original closure notice, time-stamped 2:13 a.m., as if it had always been there. This time, it contained only one line: "You can leave now."
At dawn the next day, I stood outside St. Dorothea's locked gate in New Orleans. I didn't enter. I didn't film. I didn't chase the gap in the vault door like it was content. I spoke softly into my recorder, the way you speak at a bedside. "I'm sorry," I said, "for laughing, for treating grief like entertainment, for listening like a thief." The air pressed around me, then eased. Somewhere between the vault rows, I heard a slow exhale, satisfied, almost bored, like a door closing. As I turned to leave, something metallic ticked behind the fence, one clean sound, like a coin dropped onto stone. I didn't go back in. I didn't even step closer. I just watched through the wire as a small silver quarter rolled out from between the vault rows, spun once, and settled near the gate on the cemetery side. Offerings go in, not out. That quarter felt like a return receipt. I drove away without taking it, and when I checked my recorder later, the apology track had no extra voices beneath it, only my breathing, and then, at the very end, a soft click, like a lock finally choosing to stay shut. I drove home and didn't tell this story on the show, not at first. Weeks passed. No more messages, no more knocks. My episodes returned to ordinary human darkness, fraud, greed, obsession. Then one night, while editing, I found an extra track buried under my narration, room tone that didn't belong. I isolated it and boosted it until it became a voice. My voice. Older, hoarse, like it had been underwater. "If you're hearing this," it said, "you didn't stop soon enough." A pause, filled with faint singing. Then, "There's a door you haven't found yet." The file ended with a single sound, a laugh. Not mocking, not cruel, just human. And behind it, as if answering, the chorus returned, patient, soft, waiting. That's why I'm telling you now, because the dead don't have many rules, but the ones they have are strict. Silence is a boundary, and if you keep crossing it, one day, the boundary crosses you back.